praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gathered us in His house today to remember Him and to remember the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these moments and for these blessings. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allows us to benefit from these moments and continues these blessings upon us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Even though we are few in numbers, numbers have never been the concern of individuals with sincerity, but everybody should be enveloped in the realm of intention. So even though we're not concerned about how many people turn up, we intend that we convey the benefit that we have been given from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam through unbroken chains to every single human being that we can convey it to. And so even though we're small in number now, inshallah, if I can request everybody that whatever they learned today, even if they can take one point and they can convey it to somebody else that they know, whether it's somebody within their household, whether it's somebody within their friends, whether it's their neighbors, whether it's anybody that they can convey it to, that they take something from what they learn and they convey it to others. And now the condition of fulfilling that is that you have to take yourself first. As they say in Arabic, فَقْدُ شَيْءٍ لَا يُؤْتِي, that a person who doesn't have something, they cannot give something. So the first step is that we take something from today. The second step is that we give what we take to those around us. And it may be, you might see, for the brothers, you might see a Muslim brother who's not really practicing or who may not have an outward connection. Ultimately, Allah knows best. There's somebody you might not see as having a connection. You know, they don't have to be of the same nationality as you. They don't have to go to the same masjid as you. They don't have to live in the same vicinity as you. But just go up to them and say, Assalamu alaikum, brother. I heard this today, and I wanted to bless you with this point. That's it. Not in a way of belittling them or making them feel inferior to you, but in a manner of genuine, sincere concern and love for that person, with that intention. Because if you go up to that person with sincere love and concern and intention, just merely giving them salam should be enough, because the intention will impact that person. And the reason why I'm mentioning this at the very beginning is that this is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions. The Prophet ﷺ, one of the first conditions, one of the first teachings that he gave to the Sahaba al-Kiram was بَلِّغْ وَعَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, that convey upon me even if it is one ayah of the Quran. Because the Prophet ﷺ knew the transformative effect of the ayahs of the Quran, that for a true individual, one ayah is enough. It can change a person's life. You never know. You never know. And many of if you read books like Hilyatul Awliya and you read the biographies of the Awliya al-Kiram, you'll see that it was one moment that changed their life. That's it. Somebody was about to rob a house, they heard an ayah of the Quran, changed their life. Another one was was a highway robber. How fortunate was he went to rob Sayyidina Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. How fortunate. Look what happened to them. So many of the great awliya al-kiram, they had histories which many people would have looked down upon them for. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought them into this kind of existence and this kind of brought them through this kind of a lifestyle in order to teach everybody after them that do not lose hope. That whenever we look upon a person, we don't look at their present nor of their past. What we look is the potential they have in the future. Because nobody knows on their last breath how they will die. Nobody knows that. And that's the reality, that is the true reality of a person on the Day of Judgment. That's what they're going to be judged by, is what they were like when they passed away. They could have wiped away all of those sins through istighfar and good deeds, and they stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a martyr, as an alim, as a hafiz of the Quran. You never know. So, maybe Abdul Jabbar may reconsider next time he invites me, but I'm a teacher by profession. So your homework is, number one, listen and take. Number two, convey. And this seriously, especially in the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we're extremely weak and we lack confidence in doing this. We know brothers from different groups, they will go on their bikes, they will go to far off areas, knocking on people's doors. They're very confident, they're making an effort. An effort, an energy bears fruit, no matter who you are. Whether you're Jehovah's Witness, whether you're of any kind of group, you make an effort, you try and achieve something, you will get something. What we lack is effort. What we lack is confidence. One of the reasons why we lack confidence is we don't take knowledge from our scholars with conviction. We need to sit there, we need to make sure that we take exactly what is conveyed to us and then convey that to other people. Because alhamdulillah, from the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that we have been blessed, the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, with an unbroken chain back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This isn't something that has been invented 100 years ago or 200 years ago. This isn't something that has been freshly concocted, put together. No, this is something which is being passed down from rijal to rijal, great individuals to great individuals, all the way down to this day and age as well. So, inshallah, with that intention, brothers to brothers, sisters to sisters, inshallah, make lofty intentions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the state of this ummah. And this isn't something that will come about merely by keeping it in the realm of intention. It has to be brought out into action. Has to come out into action. We need to make an effort. And so the topic I was given was death, life and hope. The fourth aspect that's missing from there is fear. Life and death are opposites. The opposite of hope is fear. And when we look at these words carry the realities of every single human being. Whether you follow a religion or not, every single person agrees that if you are a human being, you are born. And every single human being agrees that if you are born, you are going to die. No difference of opinion there. Everybody is the same. Now, if that is the reality that we come from and that's the reality we're going to, the next question, the logical question that comes to mind is, what are we here for and where are we going to? That's the next question. So, this is the question that Islam came to answer. The Prophet ﷺ came to teach us and tell us about our origin, where we came from and what our purpose in life is. Number one. Number two, he came to teach us what our end will be and what will happen beyond the realm of this world and this existence. Both of those extremes are in the realm of the unknown. They're in the realm of they're in a realm which is beyond the senses. We cannot, with our senses, arrive at where we were before we came to this earth, nor can we arrive at what's going to happen after our death. These are realities, realms beyond the senses. So when we know that this is our reality, that there was a reality of ours before birth, there will be a reality after our death. The first thing that we know is that there are certain elements that we cannot grasp through our senses, through seeing, through hearing, through touch, through balance, through smell. We cannot arrive at them through those senses. So how then do we know what to do with those realities? We have to have trust. Have to have trust. That's the only other element. What and who do we place our trust in? Somebody who is truthful and honest and trustworthy, who has seen and sensed what we haven't seen and sensed. That's the only other option we have. You haven't experienced something, you haven't been somewhere, you haven't seen something, but you're about to experience it. You're about to embark upon that journey. You're about to go through that experience. Yeah? What do you do when you start university? You ask those who've been to university. When you're going to a certain city, you ask those who've been to that city before to tell you what the path is. Somebody you trust. Yeah? Be careful. I can remember some of our friends when they were youngsters, if they saw somebody from a different city and they came to them and asked them directions, they'd give them the wrong direction. So yeah, just go down there, turn left again, and send them to a police station. So that's why I said they have to be trustworthy, truthful, honest. And this is why, when it comes to the question of life and death, we put our absolute trust in Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's who it is. We wouldn't know where we came from, what the purpose of life is, where we are going to, if it wasn't for him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We wouldn't know what the Quran is, we wouldn't know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, if it wasn't for him sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this is one of the wisdoms as to why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept hidden the prophecy and the rank of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam from those around him for 40 years. The first thing that had to be instilled in the hearts of those people around him was absolute trust. Absolute trust. That was the first thing. For 40 years, trust was established in their hearts. They knew he isn't a liar, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. They knew that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam doesn't have any material interest in this world. They knew that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is absolutely trustworthy and absolutely honest. Once that was established, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to proclaim his prophecy and inform them of that which they didn't even know about. Now this was the test. Do they believe or do they disobey? Because they don't have a rational, valid excuse. If sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had said these things to them whilst he was a child, you could understand they would say he's only a child, we can't really trust him. Maybe what he's saying, he's maybe seen in a dream or somebody said it to him, can't really trust him. If it was when he was extremely old, again they could make the same excuse. When a person gets old, their faculties become weak. They start saying things which don't conform to reality. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to proclaim his prophecy at the prime of his age, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. 40 is considered the prime of a human being. That's his prime. So the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam informs us of where we came from, about our life. And not only does the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tell us where we came from and what we came for, he tells us the answers to every single test that we will face as a human being from birth to death. That's the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. No other individual on the face of this earth in history nor in future will ever be able to give you the answers that he gave sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nobody will be able to guide you how he guided us sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Every single step that you can think of, whether it's death, whether it's birth, whether it's marriage, whether it's wealth, whether it's poverty, whether it's hardship, whether it's ease, whether it's luxury. None of those states that every single human being will go through, bereavement, any of those states that a human goes through, nobody will be able to give you the correct answers of how to deal with those situations greater than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Tried and tested, or your money back. Guaranteed. So there is nobody else that we should put our trust in greater than the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is why the Sahaba al-Kiram, when they used to hear something from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to give that preference over what they could see and hear themselves. The Sahaba al-Kiram, they were told about the future, the signs of the end of time. Things that would blow your mind. Things that a sane person at that time, if they were to be told them, they would say, come on. Look at the story of the Isra wal Mi'raj. It became the difference between true belief and hypocrisy. Some people turned away, some people believed. It gave Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq the title of a Siddiq. Why? Because the kuffar, their first target was who? And look at this. People question the rank of the Sahaba. The kuffar knew the rank of the Sahaba. This is why their first target was Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu. They knew that if you can shake the biggest pillar, the rest will fall. So they went for the biggest first. They went for the greatest first. They go to Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq and they say, Ya Abu Bakr, they said, do you know what your companion is saying now? Meaning Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's now saying that he has been to Jerusalem and back in a night and that he has seen his Lord. Look at his answer. And this proves to us that the Sahaba, their senses, their intellect and their faculties was secondary to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Secondary. Meaning, as an example, if I was to say to you, this is blue, what would you say to me? I'm colorblind. Yeah? That's what you'd say to me. Because your senses are telling you that that's green. Yeah? You have more trust in your senses than you have in my speech right now. With the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba, is the opposite. They had more trust in the words of the Prophet ﷺ than their own senses. In other words, when the intellect tells you something that goes against what the Prophet ﷺ has told you, leave the intellect aside. The intellect is faulty, deficient, weak, doesn't grasp, doesn't comprehend. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu says, he says, I believe in what is greater than that. Not only do I believe that if he has said it, that he has been to Jerusalem and back, I believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends revelation from the heavens to him on earth. What are you testing me? That was Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. So this matter of life and death, what it's about, we only have one chance. There's no reset button, there's no cheat code. Computer games have those. This isn't a game. And when you only have one chance at something, and your whole future depends and pins on that thing, you cannot afford to get it wrong. Can't afford to get it wrong. You can't afford to make mistakes. You can't afford to fall into a trap. You can't afford to be tricked and fooled and be at loss. It's too precious. So what we have to do is we trust in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now when it comes to life, what is this life about? What are we here for? Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send us? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the answer to that in the Quran when He says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I did not create jinn and human beings except to worship me. That's it. That's what your manual says. Those are your instructions. That's the code, that's the booklet that you came with when you were born. Your purpose in life is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. Nothing else. Not to fall in love with the dunya, not to obey the shaitan. And so the Prophet ﷺ, when it comes to life, he gives life to those that are dead. And those, even if they are alive, if they go against him, they are dead even if they look alive. That's the reality of life. Now the Prophet ﷺ, as Imam al-Busiri says in his Burda, he says that if the linguistic name of the Prophet ﷺ was to be able to carry his reality, then the mere mentioning of the name of the Prophet ﷺ would bring dead bodies back to life. That's what Imam al-Busiri says in his Burda. In other words, not even the linguistic Arabic term Muhammad is able to carry the reality of the Prophet ﷺ. The name Muhammad was given nobility by being assigned to him ﷺ. So, what is life about? It's about following the Prophet ﷺ. That's what life is about. And death is what the Prophet ﷺ described as the destroyer of delights. You know, these delights, these longings, these hopes that we have, it's the destroyer of that. Brings them to a close, brings them to an end. There's no more lofty intentions then. Breaks them. And death is that reality which will come upon any single one of us in any single moment. You don't get a warning sign. You don't get an email. You know, nowadays when your parcel's about to be delivered, it tells you Steve is going to deliver this parcel within the next hour between 9 and 10 o'clock. Angel of death won't send you an email. He's not going to send you an email. He's going to come to you, finished. Your time is gone. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ used to encourage people to ponder and reflect upon death as much as possible. Why? Because when you lose sight of your destination, that's when you lose and go onto the wrong path. If you forget where you're going, if you forget that death is your destiny, death is your destination, the grave is going to be your final abode, if you forget that, sometimes you end up in places that you know you shouldn't be in. Doing actions, busying yourself in actions you know you shouldn't be busying yourself in. Those actions which if you were to remember at that moment that I'm going to die, you wouldn't have busied yourself and got distracted by them. You wouldn't have. Why did you? Because you forgot your destination, where you were going to. Swerved off the path. Took a wrong turn. It's narrated from Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, just to give you an example of this point, that the angels used to visit him. Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam. And at one time, one of his students, one of his companions was sat next to him, Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam. And an individual came towards them. And this individual kept looking at the companion of Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, kept looking at him. This individual knew that the angels visit Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, and the way this individual is looking at me, he must be the angel of death. He's come to take me. My time is over. So he says to Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, Ya Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you control over the winds. Send me to a faraway land like China. Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam says, fine. Commanded the winds, took him away, took him to China. Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam says to the angel of death, he says, why did you keep looking at this companion of mine? He says, why were you looking at him in such a way? He's saying, I was looking at him in a state of surprise. He was saying, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had commanded me in the next few moments to take his life in China. And I'm thinking, what's he doing sitting here next to you, Ya Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam? That's why I was looking at him. You cannot escape death. In fact, when you escape death, if death is meant to you, what you're doing in reality is you are placing yourself in the very place that you're meant to be. That's what you're doing. So every single human being, what their concern should be is what are they preparing for this reality that is absolutely guaranteed and agreed upon by every single human being that was born and is going to be born, has died and is going to die. Muslim, Christian, Jew, Hindu, Sikh, atheist, agnostic, Scientologist. This is the day and age. You have people who believe in these weird spaceships that are going to come and take people away. Scientology, the new religion of the age. What do they agree upon? Death. Who has the answer? Who can you trust? Everybody else is just guessing. Science, the entirety of science, lives in the realm of theory. It's all theory. It's all up for revision. Next year will be revised, it will be changed. New findings, new explorations. They will, without any hesitation, they'll do away with what they believed in yesterday, because they knew from the beginning it was all theory. We never said that it was fact. We never said it was absolute. What can we trust in? What are we all here for? What is this all about? Is this chance? Is this haphazard? Is there no purpose? Because if there is no purpose, then there are no rules. Who says murder is bad? Who says lying is a negative thing? Each person is born into this earth, they're going to die. There's no judgment, there's no answering to a higher reality. You don't owe it to anybody, nobody created you. If that's what you truly believe, there are no rules, each man for themselves. But we know that when we are born, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us something called haya, bashfulness or shyness or shame. Majority of you are from, it seems like, from Pakistan or from India or from those areas, from the Asian subcontinent. This is why it's, what do we say? Behaya, person who's lost his haya. From the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, Prophet ﷺ says, whoever doesn't have shame, let him do what he wishes. There's no point. No matter what you tell him, it won't make a difference. So, this reality of death, the only individual with conviction who has been able to tell us what it's about with detailed descriptions is Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody else. What does he tell us? that a person, that when they die and the soul is extracted from their body and they go into their grave, they'll be asked 3 questions. When we have tests, GCSEs, SATs, A-levels, degrees, driving test, theory test, this new British citizenship test, just to check whether you're British enough to be allowed to live in this country, which most Anglo-Saxon English people would probably fail. All of these tests that people have to take. If somebody was to give you the answers to those questions before you took the test, what would you do? What would any intelligent person do? Revise them, go over them over and over again, prepare for them, be ready. That's if they want to pass the test. If. It's choice. Some people want to pass tests, some people want to fail on purpose. If you want to pass the test. So if you want to pass the test, then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ has given you the answers to the questions. He's told you the questions before you're going to be asked. He's told you the answers before you're going to be asked. 3 questions. Man Rabbuk, who is your Lord? This is the interrogation. This is immigration services for Jannah. Can you enter or not? Will you get a visa or not? Man Rabbuk, who is your Lord? Who is it? Number 2, Ma Dinuk, what is your religion? Second question. Question number 3, Ma kunta taqulu fi haqqi hadha ar-rajul. What did you used to say about this man, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? The scholars commentate that at that moment in time, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is brought present to you at that time. Others say the veils between you and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Madinatul Munawwara are lifted. Now all of these things I'm mentioning, even though the topic is life, death, hope, and as I added, fear, that when we're going over these realities, we realize the rank and the reality of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because that's what it's all about, is to realize who he is sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. That's what the Quran came to teach us, who he is sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because if you can recognize him and if you believe in him, you've passed the test. Free ticket. This is why at the beginning of this short reminder I recited the ayah of Surah Al-Kahf. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَنَا بَشَرٌ مِثْلُكُمْ. Say, I am a man like you, as some people interpret it. What we find out about, through these kinds of narrations and these realities, is that what that ayah means is that he sallallahu alayhi wasallam in his outer form was a human being just like we are human beings. In language, if you were to define something, you define things as objects, as animals, as insects, planets, you have different. If you were to place, using language, the Prophet ﷺ, you'd say he is a human being. That's as far as the reality in our comparison goes. And that's where it ends as well. What's beyond that, its reality beyond that, the Prophet ﷺ is absolutely different from us. Because he is the one that came to inform us. We had no information if it wasn't for him. So death is that reality that every single human being with any sane intellect needs to prepare for. This is why the Prophet ﷺ, he was seen sleeping on a mat made of date palm leaves, dried date palm leaves. One of the Sahaba al-Kiram saw him, began to weep. What did they do? Tears. Said, Ya Rasulullah, the kings of Persia and Rome, they sleep on beds, on soft bedding. And you, Ya Rasulullah, the one whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made the final prophet, you're sleeping on a mat of dried palm leaves to the extent that it's leaving marks on your blessed back, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Have you ever seen a king like that? Look at the response of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, Mali wa hadha. He says, what do I have with this world? In other words, the world is in need of me, I'm not in need of this world. That's the difference. There's two types of people. There's those that are dependent upon this world, and there's those upon whom this world is dependent. The Prophet ﷺ, the world was dependent upon him ﷺ. The awliya al-kiram, this world is dependent upon them. This is why Imam al-Ghazali rahmatullah alayhi, he commentates that when the day of judgment arrives, there will not be a true slave and a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala present. And it's because of their absence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings this world into non-existence, because there's no purpose of existence anymore. The whole purpose of existence was for his worship. There's nobody left to worship him. Might as well call it an end. End of times. This world is dependent upon them. The Prophet ﷺ described, he continued, he says, I am like a traveler who takes shade under a tree for a moment and then passes. He taught us the reality of this world. That the reality of this world is not to build upon and to depend upon and to rely upon and to place all of our trust and hopes in, because soon we will leave it and it will leave us. That's the reality. Exactly like a person who goes to travel and they stop at a station. They're about to catch the next flight. Whether it's an airport or a train station or a bus station, wherever you think. About to catch the next flight. What do they start doing? Start building a house there. They get married from there, they start having children there, they establish themselves there. What was the point? How long is it going to last? They're about to catch the next flight. They're about to leave. It's not at the station that you build your house, it's at your destination that you're going to that you should build. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the matter and the desires of this earth are only the delights of the deluded. وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. Amazing ayah of the Quran. Look at the description, the depth of the description of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that. Defines this earth in one ayah of the Quran. Less than an ayah of the Quran. Mata'ul ghurur. Those who are deluded. If you pass through the desert, you see a mirage. It's like that. Those people who put their trusts and their hopes in this world, it's like a person who's chasing after what he perceives to be water. In reality, it's ripples of heat. Look at the difference. He thinks it's water, it's in fact the direct opposite. It's ripples of heat that looks like water. That's exactly how people are in this dunya. That when they're looking and they're living for things which are the delights of this dunya, in reality they are things that will consume them and destroy them instead. They will not give them delights. Tell me one person who has a delight in this earth, or a longing or a hope in this earth, and they've been satisfied by it once acquiring it. Money. Money. People want money. They get money, what happens? Are they satisfied? Are they happy? The Prophet ﷺ says that the reality of the son of Adam is that if he was given a mountain of gold, he would only want a second one. That's it. Marriage. Some people think, again it's because they've been watching too many Bollywood films, they think that is heaven on earth, marriage. They think that's it, I have to get married, and once I get married everything will be hunky-dory, roses and meadows of roses and flowers and Switzerland and beautiful mountains and backdrops. Ask those that are married. All of that, as they say at the end of the honeymoon period, finished. So wealth, children. Maybe not so much in this day and age. In the past, people wanted to have children and they considered that their pride and honor, their fakhr. How many parents have grown old and they are weeping because of their children? How many? They had their hopes in their children. What is it of this earth, this world, the desires that we have, that when we acquire, we are satisfied by? That gives us the coolness of our heart. Is there anything? It's a question for you genuinely. Is there anything from this world that once you long for it, you're quite taking in this day and age, mobile phones. Best example. What's the next one coming out? 7. Don't know when they're going to stop. Person who gets the latest mobile phone, they think they need the next one. Have to. It's like a life support machine. If you don't get it, we're going to die. And then when the new one comes out, the old one, finished. Nothing from this earth, from this dunya will ever give you satisfaction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that verily the hearts find tranquility in the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's where it is. There's no material thing, there's nothing tangible in this earth that will give you that serenity. Ask those who've been to Madinatul Munawwara, who stood before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Can you replace that? Is there any exchange for that? There's nothing. And so we end very briefly before I hand over to Imam Khalid, hafidhahullah. Inshallah, may Allah allow us to benefit from him, inshallah. Hopes and fears, these are called the two wings of the believers. A believer, their flight and their travel is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the two wings with which they fly are hope and fear. And these need to be in balance. That a person should not be in excessive fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he loses all hope. That he thinks, no matter what I do, I'm doomed for failure. I might as well do everything, I might as well commit every sin I can now. It's too late anyway. Nor should a person have excessive hope where they think, I don't need to do anything, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive me. It's as though the principle is this, that those who have sincere fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah never exacts His wrath upon them. Because of their sincere fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He forgives them, overlooks, and enters them into paradise. And those that have neglectful hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in other words, they have hope without any action. In other words, they think they can take advantage of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. Those people who think they can take advantage of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is upon those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exacts His fear and His wrath. It's about the balance. We fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but we have hope in His mercy as well. And those hopes that we have, we place them for the akhirah, for the hereafter. Every single thing that we do, make it a vessel, make it a carrier, make it a transporter for your good deeds to the akhirah. Whether you go to work, whether you're at home with your family, whatever you're doing, think about the action first. Will this action carry me and propel me forward in the akhirah or not? That's the question. Every single action. Will this push me further on in my path towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or will it drag me further behind? No matter what you do, it will fall into that category, and it doesn't mean it has to be everything outwardly, apparently associated with the religion. Football can be used in that way. One of our sheikhs, Sheikh Abdulaziz Fredericks, from Scotland, he says he allows his children and their friends to watch Celtic versus Rangers in his house. Now you're going to say to me, why are you sitting on the minbar in a masjid talking about hope and fear, life and death, mentioning that example? Look at the intention behind it. He says, if I didn't, then I know that my son would go to his friend's house to watch Celtic versus Rangers. And when he's in their hands, I have no control over what he may do, what he may say, what he may eat, what he may drink. But he says, if I allow my son to sit in my house and let his friends come here, then I can control what he eats, what he sees, what he says, and maybe through them being in our presence, they will be positively influenced by Islam as well. That's where football is used for da'wah. See the difference? It's in your mindset and your intention. So inshallah we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He envelops us in His mercy and His forgiveness, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to spend these short moments of our life in His servitude and His worship, and in the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He keeps us in a constant state of His fear and His hope, Ya Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam.